It's week 10. We're all trying to scramble into the playoffs, so let's have a special edition of the Panic Meter. This week, we are making add drop decisions, particularly who we're going to drop. So let's just say that I'm panicked about all of these guys. It's just how droppable are they? And keep in mind, every league's different, everyone's situation's different, so you should do what's best for you. I'm just telling you how much I'm panicked and willing to get them off my roster to go pick someone else up. We'll start at quarterback with Jordan Love. And I know this feels like a shocker because if you're on Sleeper or other apps that show that he's the QB 11, that is in total points scored. That isn't in points per game. So he's just been healthy. The bye weeks have all happened. Everyone's caught up from all that nonsense. And now we have someone like Jordan Love. And maybe you need to pick up another high upside quarterback, or maybe again, you're done with bye weeks and you need to pick up someone else because you don't need him anymore and you have another option. I think you could consider dropping Jordan Love for the simple fact that he doesn't rush the football, and I think that the touchdowns are going to dry up. Tucker Kraft just went down and he's out for the season. That's a huge source of touchdowns, and I know they still have Romeo Doubs. Christian Watson, when healthy, has been a touchdown machine, and Jaden Reed may or may not come back sooner than later. But we saw this last season, and keep in mind this was because that Jordan Love was injured, but they are also a winter team, so this is something that's very indicative throughout history. They start to shift to a run first team. When you're an outdoor club who plays in the snow, who plays in the cold and in the elements, you want to rely on that running game, and I think this is what we're going to see from the Packers. Moreover, I think that Josh Jacobs has just earned this bell cow role that he never had with the Raiders. Keep feeding him, and they're going to keep feeding him in the red zone. And they don't need Jordan Love to throw that often. This is going to lead to what I would think is pretty average regression. This isn't him being a bad player, but you probably could get the same upside from a player with a lesser name. And then you could pick up someone else later, or even someone with more upside. Let's say someone gambled Baker because he had 2 bad stretches and then a bye week. Maybe you could pick him up in the future. Yeah, we've seen waivers run, but always check and see who was dropped, because lots of times you could find gems, and Jordan Love is someone, especially if you have 2 QBs, I would gladly gamble, because I just don't think the upside is anything beyond QB 11, which means he's not going to be the reason you win or have a spike week more often than not. So my drop meter for Jordan Love, I say, is 5 out of 10. Next on this list, a huge decision that I know that some of you are making. A lot of this I think comes with rage. It's Brian Thomas Jr. And I have him on this list because it's a realistic question, but I'll go ahead and say that my drop meter is at a 3 for the simple fact that he has a lot of upside within this offense. There's a lot to like with him when he is healthy. We just haven't seen it all together. We got a glimpse of that, but keep in mind, I do think it's going to get bad, and I do think you should be hesitant in putting him in your lineup if you have to or not. The key is, I just don't think you can drop him and pick up somebody that quite has the upside, especially with Travis Hunter out. Now, I do expect them maybe to sit him longer if they have to, since they just made a trade for Jacoby Myers. Let's say you lost a key piece, whether you need to make a decision because it's win or go home, depending on how tight your league is, and you need to gamble Brian Thomas Jr., I do think the floor is worth consideration, and that's why he's on this list. And that's why I wanted the caveat in telling you that you need to make decisions that are best for you. But I don't think he's drop proof anymore, and that's why he's even on the list. So a little worried about that situation. I'm worried about him long term. Let's say for Dynasty, I do think he's a buy if you could still make trades for him, but I don't think in redraft we're ever going to see quite the ceiling that we want, and the floor is a little too low to feel confident. But because he still has a ceiling, he's unfortunately a roster clogger that you have to hang on to, and maybe not gamble just for a week to get by if you don't have to. And before we move any further, make sure to hit the like, subscribe button so we can help you get into the playoffs. And if you want access to all of our tools, articles, or you're into NBA and you want all that stuff to get ready for the season and all the things behind our paywall, use the code on the screen, YouTube15, at checkout, and that gives you 50% off all of RotoWire's tools and subscriptions. And we'll get right back into it. Jordan Mason. My drop meter 8 out of 10. It's not great. He wasn't great before Aaron Jones came back, and now that Aaron Jones is back again, he's still efficient. I just don't see a lot of the upside here, and I think that JJ McCarthy's shown that they could sling the rock a little bit. I'm concerned about Jordan Mason, and if you need to gamble him to pick someone else up and to get by, he might be in streamer territory already. We've just had a lot of success early on. Keep in mind, we knew that. We knew this was going to be a good window, and we knew that we were drafting him just solely based on Aaron Jones and his availability. I don't think that Jordan Mason's going to go away. That's why I don't think he is a pure drop no matter what. But I do think there is going to be a limited ceiling that is purely based on touchdown upside. I'm concerned, and this is why last week I already told you that maybe if you can make moves with Jordan Mason, you should. For several weeks now, I feel like we've been slowly heading to that cliff, and I hope you got off the bus before we're at where we're at right now. Next, it's Jacory Croskey-Merritt. My panic meter, 7 out of 10. I don't know if Jaden Daniels being out for the season helps or hurts the situation, because that gives maybe a few more rushing opportunities, but I definitely think that the upside for touchdowns is limited. And when you don't have a lot of receiving on top of that, if you're in a PPR format, JCM might be droppable. I don't love anything out of this backfield. Everything seems ugly. I know there's been a lot to like about him, but he hasn't seen double-digit PPR points since week 5. There's a lot of evidence that just says he's a roster clogger, and I hope you got something for him while you couldn't redraft. And in Dynasty, I still like him. We're just waiting on the future when hopefully we see this offense return back to the 2024 standards that we saw before all the injury nonsense with Jaden Daniels and Terry McLaurin. Just feels ugly at this point, and quite frankly, in redraft, I'm out. Next is another running back. It is Tyrone Tracy Jr. with the Giants. Man, if he can't do it now, I'm concerned. Devin Singletary is still getting touches. As a matter of fact, he outsnapped Tyrone Tracy, and we just don't see the great rushing upside that we want to see with Tyrone Tracy. Yeah, he's a good receiver, but he's just not that great of a rusher. He isn't quite the tackle breaker that we saw with Cam Scatterboo, and he's not as efficient between the tackles. If he was, we wouldn't see Singletary out there now, and we'd see more of a bell cow role. I think that he's droppable, and you're only banking on the same upside he had before with Scatterboo, which is a couple of receptions and maybe a touchdown. It's not great, and I'm worried about it long term in Dynasty as well. I just don't see a good future for him being a fantasy contributor. 9 out of 10. If there's anyone that you can drop right now, Tracy seems like the top candidate. Lastly, we'll finish on a tight end. Evan Engram. It's 10 out of 10. A, he's a tight end. B, if he can't get it done in a joker role for Sean Payton, I don't know where he can. He's on the wrong side of age. We did get 3 good seasons, his last one at the Giants and a couple with the Jags, but maybe it's a fit thing. We did hear that they were shopping for tight ends at this point. So it's not that I don't even think he's going to get replaced. I just don't see him earning any more targets. And then when you have a tight end that doesn't have any upside, he's probably the most droppable person on your team besides your backup QB. There's nothing to like here, and he seems pretty much dead as a fantasy asset. It's over. Get someone else. If there's anyone I think that you should drop, there's probably upside on the waiver wire that could provide you a little more scoring than Evan Engram can. But that'll do it for me, folks. I'm Jagger May. And again, if you want more content like this, hit the like, subscribe. And if you want our full access to the website, go over to rotowire.com and use the code YouTube15. Love you guys, and I'll see you next time.